yeah, I knew God had a sense of humor as well, because my mind, I always told God, I'm gonna marry a white guy. Like
Hmm.
that's what I'm gonna do. Like, right? And then, because that's all I've ever dated, right? I've only ever dated white guys, and I was like, yeah, Lord, like that's what it's gonna be, right? And then I remember meeting Nigel, and I just was like kind of laughing at myself and at God, because I just knew God had a sense of humor, and I was like, yeah, I'm like, I guess, like that's what it's gonna be. Like, for the people that don't know, like my husband's half black, half white.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, and just little stuff like that, where our birthdays were like 2 days apart, or our moms loved the same exact music. Our moms were both singers, like we were both singers. Like it was just super weird, obvious things that
Hmm.
only God could have just, yeah. It was like winks here and there, and it just made a lot of
Yes.
sense.
What I love about
Yeah.
that too is like you said, like that initial attraction wasn't like maybe what you were used to of like the lustful high of like, "Oh my gosh, like I have to have
Yeah.
this person." Because it was the same thing with my
Yeah.
husband because I had finally come to the Lord before meeting my husband. So I was like looking for different things. Like I'm no longer looking for the things that are just oh so exciting and like make my flesh feel kinds of ways. I was looking for who can lead our family and who would be a good life partner, who would be loyal, like all these different things.
Yeah.
And but that was hard for me too, because then when we did get married, I still was coming from the promiscuous past and like having that flesh be gratified all the time and what it wanted. So I'm curious if you kind of had a similar experience. Like he was not your typical type. This wasn't like a flesh lusty connection. How did God redeem your desires? I guess I would say.
Yeah, this video went viral on TikTok. I think because number one, it's about sex, so of course it's gonna go viral. But
Yeah.
number two, because of the the kingdom way that I was trying to explain it, that most of the world wouldn't understand. And so of course I got judged for it, but I'm like,
Mm.
whatever, there are thousands to hundreds of women that go through this same exact thing. Because if you go to the video, there are so many women that are like, oh my gosh, I would never have thought that people felt this way. Or like, I didn't know that this was the reason why I feel this way. And so most of them were believers, some weren't. But yeah, just I would say he redeemed it through just perspective over time. And gratefully, my husband is very understanding. Like he's not a judgmental person where I'm going to tell him something and I'm going to be put down for it. Like he's very understanding, and he'll be like, "No, that makes a lot of sense." And he has a lot of grace. And he would even give me perspective about my past. So he's just very helpful, and I don't, yeah, I don't feel like judged by him at all. So I think God definitely blessed me with that. We went to this church. It was a marriage counseling thing for like a group. It wasn't just him and I. It was a group collective thing, and they were talking about, yeah, they were talking about sex. I don't really remember it too well now. It was like really fresh when I first learned about it. But yeah, they were just basically talking about like the consequences of sex before marriage. And
Mm.
I was always told by like my grandma not to have sex before marriage, but I was never told why, like why.
Yeah.
But I think God used my experiences, and this is what I was trying to tell people on TikTok, is why. Like this is why you don't have sex before marriage, because of what I am going through, and because of what my mind battles with all the time, because of now you have soul ties, and now you have comparison issues, and now you're thinking about experiences you had with other people that you should have never had in the first
Yeah.
place. So if that was never a thing, like if I only met my husband and only had sex with my husband, then I wouldn't have anything else. Like my flesh wouldn't have anything else to think about or anybody
Mm.
to compare to. Like that just wouldn't be a thing. so this
Yeah.
is so this is why now we have to face the consequences in our marriage, and it's not like they're going to be there forever, but it's just like being real, and I don't think people are used to that. So like me speaking my mind of things that I know people think about deep down, but they're too scared to speak about out loud, is like, I know that that's why I got a lot of backlash for it. But
Yeah.
um
I loved that you put
I
it out
think, yeah,
there because it's something that I have definitely gone through. And I was like, oh my gosh, finally somebody put words to this
yeah,
experience that I also go through. And I feel like it's like a daily picking up of your cross to not go down that train of thought of the comparison or of what you remember from the past or you know, all the lusty highs and situations. God says to focus on what is pure and holy and righteous. And so, like, yes, we have to deal with the consequences of the fact that, like, we have those memories, but then figuring out how to A, carry your own cross now because of it, and then B, like, I love that you can share about that with your husband too, and just like continue to expose those things so that they don't grow bigger in the darkness.
And I think a lot of women struggle with it because they beat themselves up. Oh my gosh, I feel so ashamed because I'm having these struggles, or why can't I enjoy it, or what is it, And what it is the consequences of our sin. It has nothing to do with like you being a terrible person, or you like, it's not personal, but it's personal when it comes to our consequences. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, now it's definitely gotten better. Now understanding as a woman of God, I'm able to cast down those imaginations because we're told to. I think when we're in the world, we don't know how to do those things. Like we'll think about
Mhm.
something and we're just like thinking about them and thinking about them, and we let it take over. But
Yes.
now that we're believers, God tells us, hey, you have to cast down these things that exalt themselves against, or over my word and against my word. So now I'm more aware. I'm like, oh, okay, like that's just not truly me though. Like it's the old me, and it's not. So that was my struggle, and that's kind of coming back to me, because I would feel like me having sex with my husband was a bad thing, because I remember like having sex in my past. So I was like, well, sex is kind of just like not my thing anymore, because like
Mhm.
I just remember like I feel like I'm the old me if I start having sex again. But like that's not true. Like because sex is, from God, and like it's, yeah. So I was battling that, and God had to really like, Gabby, like sex is from me. Like I made sex, and Satan perverted it, and you dabbled in it, and you did things before I had designed it to happen. And so now you're going through these things. So it was a lot, and it's hard to put into words. So that was what I was trying to explain to people. And, they turned it into, oh, you're not attracted to your husband. Oh, like, which is completely not true. It's an internal spiritual battle that I had to face.
And all those negative comments, like, aren't those like the voices of demons, that those same demonic voices that
Yeah,
already like plague our own minds? Like when we have those thoughts, I know for me, when I have those thoughts, those are the voices I hear in my head. The demons saying, "Oh, you're
yeah,
just always meant for the streets," or like, "You don't deserve him." Like I hear those same things. That's like literally the voice of demons trying to discourage you, trying to make you forget that God has redeemed you, trying to make you think that
right,
you're still who you
exactly.
once were.
Yeah, and I think I literally just read that today. It's like this. It's why it's important to know our word, because then we can combat those things with the word, and that's all we need. Like we don't need our reasoning, we don't need our explanation. We just need the word of God. So reminding ourselves, like, hey, well, God said that He justified us through the death of His Son. So I'm justified and brand new. So I don't have to worry about anything that you're saying right
I have that thought too, like, am I ever gonna be delivered from this? Like, am I ever gonna be delivered from, like, the thoughts of my past, the desires of my past? And I do believe over time, I am being delivered from those things.
now.
Like, over time, it gets better, it gets easier.
Yeah, I think it does get easier. I think it's also I think it's work as well. Like I said, like just casting down the imaginations. Like there have been times where it's truly gotten to me where like, we would be intimate and my mind would start going elsewhere, but I wouldn't want it to go elsewhere. And I would try to like talk to myself and be like, I don't want to think about that. Like, I don't care about that person. I don't care about that. I don't care about anything. Like, I just want to focus on this moment with my husband. So that's how I know that I know that I know that it's not me that truly wants to think about those things. And
Wow.
so, and then I would start crying like in the moment, and I'd be like, I'm sorry, I just can't, because I'm so irritated that I'm like thinking about this stuff that doesn't matter. And so, he would just have compassion for me and with me, and he'd like comfort me in my crying. I'm crying because I'm frustrated that I'm thinking about people I don't want to think about.
That's
So,
so real of you. Like, I love that you're so honest with him about that because, like, that's, like, the best thing I think that we can do.
yeah, exactly. He'll pray for me, and I just feel so bad. I'm like, I'm sorry, like, oh, this sucks. And so, but I'm sure men go through it as well. Like, I think I've had one man comment, and he was like, "Thank you," or it gave men understanding of their wives that maybe weren't so understanding. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think it's just a journey for everyone.
I love that you like
And
emphasize
all,
like, yeah, over time it does get easier, but also it's work. Like it's work. We have to cast those thoughts down, know our word, like rebuke those thoughts in the name of Jesus. Like it's the drifting that's dangerous. If we're ever just like drifting, like that's how you fall into all these other things of the world. Walking the Christian walk, it does take work every day.
yeah, God says to work out your salvation, not to be saved, but just to work it out. Like, I think that's
Yes.
why a lot of people, they don't persevere and they're just like, well, I'm a believer, but all this stuff is happening to me. But it's because, it's a partnership. I think about it like business all the time. Like, this is a literal partnership. Like, it's together. It's not just God doing everything.